Hi guys, and welcome to episode 6 of Chemical Warfare's Sex, Weights and Protein Shakes with me, Kirk Elliott, and my co-host, the one, the only Mr. Zack King Khan. Zack, how are you, pal?
I'm great. I'm also happy today that we've got two big motherfuckers in the house. And you know what I hate about British bodybuilding at the moment? These young guns who think they're fucking influencers. They don't know the history of British bodybuilding and these fucking superstars. Kirk, introduce them to us.
So first up, we've got Team Chemical Warfare's Mr. Lukas Gabris. Hi Lucas, how you doing, man?
All good, thanks. Nice to finally see you.
Yes, been a
after
while.
all this time, and I'm really glad to be part of this thing.
Finally. Yeah. And Lucas, whereabouts are you based at the moment, mate?
Slovakia. That's my home country.
Perfect. And you went back there, I think it was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
It's been 2 years this Christmas.
Perfect. We'll get back onto that in a little bit. So I'm also very, very privileged to welcome IFBB Pro Cecil Croasdaile to the show. Welcome, Cecil. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Good.
Excellent. So, Cecil, this is probably the first time. Have you been on any podcasts recently at all, or?
No, not at all.
So go on, tell me the story behind how you've managed to get onto this podcast tonight.
Well, I was in the gym today. I was training, and Zack came in. He was training as well, and he just said to me, you want to come on the podcast and do a podcast? You want to come on? I said, yeah, why not?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So, Cecil, obviously, I remember back when you got your pro card. Great shape, really good condition. So I think it was 2011. So when Zack actually mentioned he's been training with you in the gym, I was like, oh, great, because I'm a huge bodybuilding fan. I've been a fan for 20 years. I used to do a bit myself years ago. And I am really excited to get you on and to talk a little bit about your past, the training, and then obviously what happened after finishing competing and stuff like that. So we'll get onto that a little bit later. So yeah, first of all, welcome on board the show. So guys, starting the show off tonight, I think we'll get straight into me and Zack having a chat with our two guests about what they've been up to. So first of all, Cecil, I can see you on the screen. How was Christmas, New Year, and what's your plans for 2023?
Well, Christmas was quiet. New Year was quiet. I don't really celebrate Christmas. New Year was just kind of getting organised as to what I want to do in the bodybuilding world in terms of training and maybe, looking at the competitive side of things and what's going on. I'm an older bodybuilder now. Yeah. So the Masters Olympia is kind of tempting because I've heard they're bringing it back after 11 years. So, it's kind of tempting. It's giving me something to look forward to or look at as a goal, train towards. So that's kind of what I've been kind of trying to get my head around.
One thing I like about Cecil, he's like us guys, Lucas, me, yourself, everybody, being an underdog in this industry, where people, you don't get everything given to you on a plate. You have to work your fucking arse off. And, we didn't get sponsorships just like today, Lucas, everybody's got sponsorship today. Cecil, everybody's got a sponsorship today by doing 20 different posts on Instagram. In back 20 years ago, 10 years ago, you had to be top 3 in the British to get a sponsorship, top 5, to get something. Nowadays, anybody can get a sponsorship. And, like Cecil, he wants to do the Masters Olympia, Hopefully, he's training hard. We want to get him back on that stage. And, if Kirk and I can help you with anything, let us know, So we can give you that push.
Yeah, that's nice to know, because I've kind of always had my own training style. And I come from the old school where we work hard. There's no cutting corners and stuff like that. You got to eat, you got to train hard. I got my own training system. I call it Stronger for Longer, which is, trying to lift heavy weights for high repetitions and pushing yourself beyond the point of failure. I mean, I don't like criticizing other bodybuilders because at the end of the day, we're all bodybuilders. We all kind of know what we go through. We put in the hard work. But I noticed there's a kind of void nowadays in how hard people train, you know, and I come from an era where there was no loads of machines in gyms. You just had to have barbells, dumbbells. So we did the basic stuff and we trained hard. You know, nowadays, I'm noticing a lot of guys in the gym, there's a lot of phone trainers, guys sitting around with their phones and, you know, they're not focusing on the set to come. As soon as they finish a set, they pick up their phones and stuff like that. And that's something that we didn't do. We didn't have that technology, you know, and even nowadays, you know, you should leave your phone, put your phone away, focus on what you're doing, you know. So there is different things that's happening now that weren't happening before. And sometimes you've got to look at ways of bringing the basics back to the forefront so people understand. The machines are good, they have their place. You know, machines are good for guys who maybe have injuries. You know, you can sit down on a machine and work your chest, or you can sit on a machine and, you know, do your shoulders and stuff. And it takes some of the, the stability of kind of stabilizing yourself to pick a weight up or push it above your head and that kind of stuff. So it still has its place, but, you know, people should be, as far as I'm concerned, building foundations, overloading muscles, doing the repetitions, understanding what bodybuilding training is about. It's about sculpturing your body for what you're judged on. So when you're training and you're designing a program, it's to bring out the symmetry, it's to bring out the shape that you're going to compete, and the judges are going to, you know, compare you with the other bodybuilders. And that comes from kind of hard work. Too many isolation trainers nowadays, one arm this and one arm that, when we should be doing basic hard work exercise, you know, the bread and butter exercises that builds your body. So I'm kind of trying to bring that back to the forefront, try and reinvent myself and bring out my training system, which is the stronger for longer training system, which I do in my own little videos where you see me lifting weights and trying to keep the reps high in the 15 rep margin. Something I think I brought to the forefront back in 2010, when a lot of bodybuilders weren't doing 15 reps. And I started to do a lot of 15 reps and it kind of caught on. And a lot of people picked it up and started to push it above 12 repetitions up to 15 repetitions. So I'm trying to bring that back to the forefront. So these podcasts are places where you can try, you know, advertise that, to say that's the program, that's the way to train if you want to be big. If you want to stay strong for a longer period of time, get back to the basics.
And saying that also is, I truly believe there is no such thing as overtraining. There's only under-eating. If you haven't got the nutrients in your body, then obviously you are not going to recover. Somebody can stay in the gym and train HIIT for half an hour, 20 minutes, and he won't grow because he is not eating that nutrient to recover and grow. And people don't realize that. And I think the problem what we've got now is training has become so scientific and drugs has become the top of the protocol. It's not about what I need to do in the gym. How do I need to train? Do I train with some balls and intensity? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, but when I look at people and they start training their blogs and filming their blogs and starting a YouTube channel, my God, I feel like cringing, because who the fuck is watching you train? Because you're not motivating me. Only thing you're motivating me to do is slit my wrist, because it's that bad. It's that bad your training is. Like, Lukas, you are now, you're training a lot of athletes, and talk about how people should train. You're a trainer. Please give us some insight on this, please.
Okay. I believe one thing: intensity and muscular failure. I don't care if it's 8 or if it's 15 or 20, but train hard. Every workout will eventually work. But the trouble nowadays is the people are pussies. They are soft. You tell them a working set, and somebody tells me he will do 4 working sets in one exercise. And I'm saying, dude, I will give you one working set for you to understand what it means. I was coached by John Hodson. He introduced me to HIIT training. I was trained by Eddie Elwood, whatever. Intensity and muscular failure and real hard training. If it's 8 to 15, whether you chasing hypertrophy or metabolic stimulus, you must train hard. So I agree with Cecil. Now, the older we get, I'm nearly 40, I aim for higher repetitions. When it comes to legs, 20 plus, okay? Hardly anybody can, I'll put it that way. Nobody lasted with me a leg workout without puking, because they used to doing this 8, 12, whatever. And I said, okay, let's go for 5 sets of 25 on leg extensions. Suddenly, the guy's puking. You tell him to squeeze, you tell him to keep the tension, they're gone. So people become soft, they don't know what hard training is. And lucky enough, I grew up in an era where I had really good, let's say, guys to look up to, good idols that train old school, free weights, hard to failure. Now it's not fashionable.
That's a good point you bring up, Lukas. In our time, we only had a few people to look at, and the people who we looked at were great, and they had credentials, they had competitions, and they had things to back up their training. The problem you've got now is you've got too many Instagram gurus, scientific gurus, these qualifications in a classroom, you know what I mean, and not put in practical. And these are the people who are training people. And this is where the industry has changed now, where you're seeing, I see people doing one-arm lats and they're squeezing for 50 seconds. Like, I'm like, listen, and then they're using bands on there. Listen, if you're putting enough load on that muscle, it's going to squeeze itself. It has got no choice. It's got no choice but to squeeze. When you're pulling it back, it's going to contract like a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So by a person squeezing so hard, like he's sat on the toilet having a fucking shit, like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like they're overemphasizing the scientific approach by saying you got to squeeze so hard.
Yeah, you see a lot of what people need to understand, is that to pick up even this little remote here, your muscles have to contract to pick it up, because that's your fingers, arms, from your brain to your arm works to pick it up. Now, how hard the muscle contracts depends on how heavy the weight is. So if this was heavy, I'm sending the signal to my arm to pick it up, but then my muscles have to work harder to pick it up. So sometimes all this squeezing and holding is unnecessary, because you've got to work within your natural body mechanics. So we don't walk around the streets squeezing and holding, we walk fluently. So you should lift the weights in a similar way, as long as it's safe. But there are different styles of training. Isolation exercises work for people who already have muscles. You've already built your muscles. You're using isolation to target one muscle group to shape it for, whatever reason you're doing that. But if you don't have muscles, and you have a new generation of people coming up and getting into the gyms now, they're born into seeing these gyms with loads of machines. And there are some trainers who are now capitalizing on their ignorance. They're telling them what to do, what not to do. And the basics never change. You want to get strong, you got to overload the muscle. Yes. If you have one muscle, everyone has a stronger side than a weaker side. Now, you isolating muscles, your stronger side is always going to dominate your weaker side. So you need to bring it up in balance. And the only way you're going to do that is to lift weights that incorporate more than one muscle group to move that weight. And that's your compound movements. Compound movements by design, deadlifts, squats, will force you to work hard. People say, hard, it's not about hard, it's the intensity that you put into what you're doing. Now, squats is going to force you to it's going to make you work hard. Deadlifts are going to force you to work hard because of the way the exercise is. So people doing those exercises when they first start out, they build a foundation. They develop their strength, and then with the strength, you can overload the muscle to make it grow. And then once you've got muscles, you can isolate them. You don't just start off isolating.
But when you become really strong, then the isolation movement becomes a power movement, because I can be very strong on an isolation movement, very strong now.
Yeah.
And the beginners don't understand what you're trying to say is build a foundation, years of graft, and build the mass, and then use the isolation movement. But I can use isolation now like, fuck, you know, I can leg extend something that nobody in the guy can leg extend, you know. But what you are saying is they don't understand. This again the mentality nowadays. They trying to go backwards. They start from the end, not from the beginning.
Exactly, because I see a lot of people talking on Instagram. They're saying, "I'm doing a density workout." Hang on a minute, density workout. You know what I mean? Yeah, fucking. I thought building muscle was fucking building dense. You know, the only way you're gonna build muscle is build muscle. You know, there's some people say, "Oh, to get that look, you gotta train like this." It's your genetics how your muscles look. You know, Phil Heath didn't have muscle density like Dorian Yates. Do you know what I mean? Does that mean they both didn't train as hard? You know, exactly. So you know, the thing about it is genetics. It's a lot of things. You know what I mean? So everybody trains hard to their capacity. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Nobody can just
I mean, just going back to a couple of injuries as well. So like I was terrible for the bench press. The bench press, I tore my pec major off the bone. It was something what my build for wasn't very good. So I always preferred dumbbells. But when I did all my training, when I did all the personal training stuff many years ago, it was just compound movements and isolation movements. That was it. So build with the compounds and kind of like chiseling concrete afterwards with some of the isolation. That's the kind of philosophy of I think at the time of 20-something years ago that was put out there to a lot of people. It was quite basic. I think nowadays, we did touch on it last week, this has become a selling point industry where people make up new terms, kind of regurgitate what's already been done in the past, and then from that, they'll rename it and try and make it into a sale point. Honestly, because it's a big business now online, but like some of the terms we were speaking about last week, you know, I had to work out what they were because it's all these different names of basic stuff that's coming out, and I just see it as a marketing tool for money. But when you put it down to the basics of Phil Heath and Dorian, I bet they both fucking lifted really heavy to start off with, and I bet they weren't fucking around with isolation movements. Really, it would have been like Dorian heavy duty training, Mike Mensa training. Like I've trained with Lukas, I've trained with you, Zack. I've not trained with Cecil. You're fucking heavy duty training. Like Lukas is very strict. You're very strict, Zack. It's what I've noticed from really top athletes. It's concentrating on every rep, getting the most out of the rep, full range of movement with weight, with heavy weight.
Yeah, I think you know you got to remember, like for me, Lukas and Cecil, however we train, like for me, my training never stays the same. I will have a phase where I do HIIT training. I'll have a phase where I back off and I might do, you know, 4 sets of 10, and then each week add 5 kg on and try to go for that again, 4 sets of 10 again, and you know, so giving me joints a rest. And you know, as you get older, you can't train balls to the wall for fucking 1 year non-stop. You have to basically put it in sections how you fucking train. You got 3 months of training heavy, 3 months of giving your joints a rest, then coming back again. I know for myself, balls to the wall, 3 months is all I can give it before my joints will start feeling it. And that's the thing. You know, you see some people and they're bench pressing and they're bringing the bar right down to their fucking chest. And I said to them, listen, take the weights off and bring that bar down now. And he might have like about a couple of inches off his chest. I go to him, that's your range of movement. You don't have to force yourself to bring it to your chest, because all you're doing then is them last 2 inches, you're stressing your joints, not your fucking muscle. Everybody's got a different makeup. It doesn't mean that you're less flexible. It's just your body makeup.
Hey, Zack, I've got a question for Cecil on this. Just to jump in there quickly whilst we're talking about that. So, you said you split your training, Zack, into 3 different segments throughout the year. Cecil, with your 15 rep program range, how does that vary then during different parts of the year?
Well, what I do, I train within a rep range. So the minimum is 6 to 8, and the maximum is 12 to 15. Now, what I try to do is if I warm up in the 15 rep range, and then I always try to go to the top end of the rep range. I don't put a figure in my head. If I thought of 8 reps, by the time I get to 8 reps, I kind of begin to kind of fade. So I kind of say, right, get past your minimum, head to the top end of the rep range. You vary the intensity by the amount of weights you lift, the load you lift. Yep. So if I go in the gym today and I did, say, 4 plates on the leg extension machine, and I know I could do more, I maybe do the heavy stuff on the leg press, and then I do the lighter stuff on the hack squat. Yeah. So I vary the intensity in that way. Yeah. So next time around, I might go heavy on the hack squats and lighter on the leg press, but I still kind of keep my reps in that kind of 6 to 15 rep range. If I can get 15 reps, then I'm 9 reps away from the minimum end of the rep range. And that should reflect the amount of weight. If I'm going to go for 6 reps, I want the weight to be 6 reps to failure. So it's not going to be, a weight I can do 10 reps. I'm doing 6 reps. Yeah, so I
said none of this reserve bollocks. You know what I'm saying? It's like this new fad what's come out. It's like
holding back. That's a different way of training. Nothing's wrong with that. I see a lot of bodybuilders doing that. I see a lot of bodybuilders doing low reps. They still get big. They still put on size, but low reps below 5 and 6 reps for me is powerlifting. And if you're I like to work each working set on its own merit. So if I'm doing a set now, I take that to 15 reps. I'm not going to hold back because I know I'm doing another set after that. So let me save myself. I'd sooner rest longer in between the sets and then still go for my 15 reps as I increase the weight. So that's the kind of intensity I put into it. But throughout the year, because we live the lifestyle, we're always training, you vary the intensity. Some days you lighten the weight and you still get your repetitions. You might rest for shorter periods in between to increase that intensity and still get your repetitions. And then there's going to come a time when I can walk in the gym and feel stronger than I was the last time, and then I'll push myself and get a heavier weight and still try to get 15 reps. Yeah. So that's the way I do it in terms of varying the intensity.
Lukas, Lukas, go on. What about you, mate?
I'll give you an example. As a coach, I use that rep range very similar to Cecil, where I use something between 8 to 20. And a lot of my clients will have a very similar rep range. I'll judge by instinct. And then I will figure out where the strength is on each body part. So when they say, I feel good on low reps, when I do my biceps, okay, your biceps will be around 8 to 10. And I feel good or bad on my legs when I feel whatever. So for example, somebody on low repage, legs, your hips, joints, knees, everything hurts. Okay, you're going to go high reps, but make sure you go to failure. I always say failure. Yeah. So I believe in workout, there should be low range and high range. Not low range workouts and high rep workouts, but mixture of 8, 12, 15, and 20s.
So what do you think? What do you think of why? What's it called now? What was he called? Was it Yoda training? He had it in 3 separate weeks, didn't he? He had 15 rep, 8 to 12 rep, then he had 6 rep. What's he called now? A Flex's coach, Neil Hill.
Neil Hill.
Yeah. So what do you think of that, Lukas?
First of all, incredible coach.
Yeah.
However, this sounds to me like a strength test. To test your muscle, where you're good at, and what rep range are you good at. Yeah, it sounds like you probably know Ben Pakulski. This is how they test people in their gym. They give them a rep range around 5 to 6. 8 to 10 and 12 to 15. And they figure out based on that where the person is good at, and based on that they structure the workout.
Yeah.
So yes, I can say so, but it's something similar to what Zack said, where you are doing a period of workouts, high reppage, low reppage, progressive overload, whatever, because you can't never go all balls out. So you can choose some weeks where you have a rep range between 8 to 15, and then you have a lower reppage, and then maybe you have a higher reppage. Different training styles work, but I personally, what I found for myself, it should be a mixture of low reppage and high reppage. I can't just do low reps. I wreck myself really fast. I notice that my muscles are stronger than my attachments, especially with the time. And I also notice with the time, I have picked up a great muscle endurance. So that means I can last for longer with a heavy weight. And that came with the age. So let's say you do first rep and the 12, 13, 15 reps still looks great. And people will look at you and say, oh, hold on, that's not heavy for you. No, that's just practice, man. It's like a martial art. It is heavy. And trust me, I wouldn't do any single extra rep after that 15 or 14. And I still make it look easy. And I go to failure like that. So mixture of low rep and high rep. So pretty much what Cecil said, anything. But I don't go as low as 6 unless I judge the weight wrong. But at the level where we are, judging the weight should be a mistake allowed by 1 rep. So if I'm aiming for 6, I can go wrong and I can do 7. If I'm aiming for 8, I can be wrong and I can do 7. But I never go too wrong. I usually go wrong by half rep max.
Yeah, it's like with me, like what I prefer to do is like, if I've got the period of where I'm on my cycle, you know what I mean? And I'm eating my food, I want to make that period of 3 months count. So you know what I mean? I want to make sure I go into gym and my job is to destroy that muscle. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm gonna do 8 reps and that's to failure, that's it. If it's fucking 10 reps, 10 reps. If it's 15 reps, it's 15 reps. Only thing I know is that I know when my muscles have given up. You know what I mean?
Zack, how many sets per body part are you doing, roughly, just for the viewers to know? Like
for back today, I did 4 exercises. Yeah. So what I've learned is if I'm doing an isolation movement like lat pull downs, I like
with one hand. And squeeze it really hard.
I like to do it at a weight where I'm feeling it nice and good. I'm not just throwing the weight around. I'm just in control of it. If somebody said to me in that set, stop, I was able to stop that weight. Yeah. If they said stop. I'm in control of that weight every single time through that, motion. And after that, once I've done that, then it's time for the bread and butter barbell rows. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do barbell row, and like I said to you, is my back is warm up now. And like John Hoyston hit training, I'll do 1 warm up set, get feel of the exercise, then I'll put on the weight what I can aim for 10 reps. But that doesn't mean I'm only gonna do 10 reps. If that means I only get 8 reps out and I'm in muscle fatigue, good, jobs are good. And the thing about it is, what I've learned is, don't think to yourself, you have to do 20 reps before you fatigue. The job is to fatigue quicker, the better. That means your mind and muscle connection is better. So if you can do it around 8 to 10 reps, awesome. But if you have to do 20 reps, it means you're not getting that mind and muscle connection until 15 reps. So, you're not fatiguing quick enough. We're not doing endurance in the bodybuilding. We're doing muscle building, and each of us.
Let me just jump in there slightly, because what I kind of advocate is that to be stronger for a longer period of time, you have to build up a level of strength endurance.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to kind of be able to sustain your strength. If you were working sets are different from what I consider warm-ups and medium sets. Now, from the very first rep of a working set, you should be feeling the resistance where you're working against. So from the first rep, if I was doing curls, the first rep should be, 1, 2, and then you grind out the amount of reps you want to do. You don't get through the first 5, 6, 7 reps easy, and it's only the last 2 reps that count. Why would you want to do that? Why would you waste all them 5, 6 reps just for 2 reps to count? You know what I mean? It's only counting because you're fatigued. You want to warm yourself up, feel the blood in the muscles, that slight pump, and then you pick up a weight that is heavy from the very first rep. There's an approach to doing a set where some people will warm up, they're doing an exercise, warm themselves up, and then go straight to their heaviest weight. And then they'll do whatever they can to failure, and then do a drop set. That's a different approach to doing a set.
Yeah, and I always recommend to people is, you got to have a good eye. You got to know yourself, and you, Lukas, as a trainer, you would know. Like somebody says every week they're breaking records, the new saying is touching new weights, yeah? Listen, is your form going to be as good as you did 8 reps as you did 15 reps? That's what you have to be honest with yourself. You have to ask yourself, are you incorporating as much muscle fibers you did with 10 reps as you did with 15 reps? Or were them last 5 reps on that curl just like throwing it around?
Right. I've trained like that. I've been the person who kind of come from when we're benching, we used to use the term, just bang the weight, just bang them out. So you'd be bang, 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 and you keep it moving. I don't believe the tension comes off the muscle because you have to use the muscle. It's like someone saying, I'm doing a bench press, but I keep my triceps out of it. You can't keep your triceps out of it because you cut the muscle, move the weight.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but there's a difference between cheating on the last couple of reps than cheating on the first couple of reps. It's like once you squeezed out 10 good reps on bench press and you're squeezing your muscle, all of a sudden the ball's giving way. Yeah, half reps, do as many as you can. Keep the ball moving as much as you can. You're gone. Job good. But you have to ask yourself, did you break a record? Did you touch a new fucking weight? No, there's different way to skin a cat. I'm all for keeping the weight moving, keep it moving. Like first couple of reps, I'll squeeze it nice, easy. Then I'll be like, fuck me, my chest is giving way now. My reps are getting half, but I'm still in control of it. Half, keep on moving it, keep moving it, keep going. Then your training partner or spot who's there will take it off you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, going back, just quick one with Lukas. Well, I trained with Lukas, a really good session before he went back to Slovakia, I think it was a year and a half ago. And he was the first person, actually, I hadn't really trained like this for a long time, but they call it timed attention training. But he showed me a different way of doing it. So I was the old-fashioned way of just a little bit like Cecil was saying, just pump, and I never really felt the muscle from the full extension and contraction. Lukas was fantastic, and we went through a session. It was a chest workout, and he taught me the control of the actual weights. Obviously, my weight's halved, and I look like a pussy, proper pussy boy. He'd have been like, pussy boy, Kirk, fucking little soft ass. I was like, yeah, and he showed me that. And now he was obviously lifting, like he said before, very controlled and very heavy weights. And just put Lukas back on now. Lukas, when you're doing that kind of training, and also going back on Cecil after as well, what's the kind of sets you're doing to build up to your working set?
I always start with high reps and then go towards low reps. And I always try to keep my form strict and controlled. Because genetically, mechanically, I break down fast. So on some movements, I can allow myself dynamic movements, but mostly I have to control the weight so I don't get injured. So this is the reason why you describe in our workout as you do, is because I'm very strict on the negative, I contract, and still though, using heavy weight. And that came with the time, obviously. And that's why I say people train the muscle, not the ego. And then eventually that muscle will get stronger. But if you're in bodybuilding, you trained in the muscle. The right stimulation, mechanical stimulation from A to B. But in powerlifting, they don't care.
No.
They get it from A to B through joint, through tendon, through muscle, through explosion, whatever. So I'm trying to get my head here in the upper back, and that's what I do. And put as much as possible concentration on that muscle, but still lifting heavy. So as I said, mechanically I break down fast. That's why I need to be really strict. But there are some movements where I can be a little bit more dynamic, and obviously I like to do that. And as Zach said before, different ways to skin a cat. Yeah, you do as many reps as you can with a full range of motion. Let's say you hit 8 and you know you've got something left in the tank, then you do partials. For example, ideal, for example, on something like a tricep extension or leg extension, isolation movement, when you can actually do the partials when you're on your own and get that extra blood in while you already failed at the full range of motion.
Yeah, and people need to understand you only can do partials on certain movements, So it's like partials on chest, perfect. Partials on back, not so good. Partials on triceps, great. Partials on biceps, not so good. Because you're going to, bottom of that movement, you can rip a tendon, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Because that's more joint. And like Lukas said, powerlifting is A to B, getting that weight up there easiest as possible. With bodybuilding, it's getting from A to B the hardest possible way and recruiting the most muscle fibers. That's the difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting.
But then again, I have noticed the amount of receptors some people have in the muscle will dictate also how good you can train the muscle. Because if you, for example, look at some guys and you see, I use an example, Branch Warren, it's terrible form. But man, that guy is an absolute monster. Yeah, he just rips apart everything from that point to that point. Once he's moving, it's game over for anything, every freaking fiber. And also, for example, you see Ronnie Coleman. He was doing dynamic movements. He wasn't doing squeeze like Dorian.
No.
Yeah. So different ways, and also I believe that the muscle receptors, and then with the time, the size of the muscle will dictate what sort of technique you can use. Because if you have a lot of meat to work with, you can feel it slow, you can feel it fast, you can feel it dynamic. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but Lukas,
there's a lot of different ways to what you got to understand, and there's a lot of different varieties. And when you're a person who trains all the time, sometimes it's good to change it up and use different varieties. You don't say one way. When you hear a guy saying this is the best exercise for something or the only way to train, that is nonsense, because there are different ways to train. So if you want to do a slow rep, you go in the gym and you think, right, I'm going to slow it down today and I'm just going to control the reps. I'm going to do just 10 slow or a slow set. You move it fast, continuous tension, you get more reps. But there's nothing wrong with, mixing it up. Some days you do slow, some days you train explosive, some days you isolate. And you throw all these different things into the mix, and it breaks up the monotony of doing the same things all the time. So I can come to your gym and train with you and just do your workout, and you lead the session, and I just follow what you do. You can come and train with me, I lead the session, and you follow what I do. So it gives us a different ways. It shocks the system. The muscles can be sore the next day more than they were before, because you put them under a different kind of stress, a different kind of tension. So it's good to try different ways of training. You've got your own style. I've been training for a few years now, so I kind of know what works for me, and I kind of specialize or personalize my training suited to my body. If I was training someone as a beginner, I wouldn't necessarily have them do the techniques or the style I do. I try and let them do it, stricter, properly, safely. You understand? So there is difference. You can throw everything into the basket and just mix it up.
Yeah, I think the main thing you got to realize, Cecil, is that a lot of things with beginners, the problem is they've got too much choice, and they make it more complicated. So, like they said, for a beginner, you wouldn't tell them to use rest pulls, supersets, drop sets, and they're all doing all this in every exercise, and it's way too much. I wish the most important thing here, what beginners need to learn is execution of rep. Because most people don't even know how to execute a proper rep. And I also think exercise selection is important on the way your body is, because, you know, just because squats feels good on me, you might have a person who's a lot taller than me. Squats might not be as good on them, so you might have to use something else for them, because they might say, listen, I'm too tall and my hips are, so, you know, you have to give it a chance. I always say to people, give it a chance. Until you give it a chance, you don't know. You know, get the form right, get everything right, and see what happens. And this is where you have to be instinctive on your body. And that's where a coach, you have to tell a coach how you feel, how does it feel? And, you know, a coach can only do so much for a person. I can only do so much for my clients. But if my clients don't give me the feedback, I don't know what's going on inside their body. All I can see is from outside, they're doing a perfect rep. But that perfect rep might not be even recruiting no fibers. You know what I'm saying? And this is where you have to swap one exercise round every so often, not swap all the exercises around. You've got to say, okay, this doesn't work, let's try something else. Bring that into the jigsaw puzzle. Then everybody has a blueprint of their workout, their training manual, their nutrition manual, and that's their blueprint. This is the beauty. You train with so many different people, like I train with Dorian, train with Milos, I train with Neil, train with Patrick Tour, and I got a piece out of everything what worked for me. And then I have my own blueprint of training. You know what I mean?
Quick question for everyone, Zach. Quick question for everyone. So first of all, leading up to a show, obviously Cecil's got his way of training. Lukas, you've got yours. Zach, you've got yours. How does the last 2 weeks differentiate then on strength, on actual weights, how much you're lifting? Do all of you back off a little bit on the actual amount of weight, or do you keep it going right the way like Dorian did till the very, very end, and then it's showtime? Lukas, you start us off on that one.
As little change as possible. What got me there will get me there. As little, obviously, when you depleted the last 4 weeks of the contest prep, when your condition is coming in, you feel like shit, let's say so. You have days where you can't explain yourself why you're still so strong. And then you have days you think, David, I can't lift nothing. However, try to keep the weights as heavy as possible till the very end. This will keep the density there. This will keep the muscle there.
Yeah, Cecil?
Yeah.
I agree with that, because I never lighten the weights. I just lift as heavy as I can right up until the show. Yeah. What I tend to do is add in the isolation exercises, the cardio. But I'm a big believer in warming up. You can't just dive in and, you know, just jump. I believe that when you change positions from one exercise to the next, you can't just dive in. If I was doing flat bench press and then went on to incline press, because I'm inclined and my front shoulders are coming into play, I wouldn't just go straight into that movement. I do what I call a groove set. So I adjust to the position, do a lightweight, feel where I want to hit the tension before I increase the weight. But going into competitions, I believe that you can actually build muscle as you're losing the fat. And this is for people who already have muscle, not guys who want to get lean and lean bulk and these kind of terms they use nowadays. Once you already have mass and you're reducing your body fat and you're still strong in the gym, remember, strength is relative. You know, I can lift the weight that's light for me but heavy for someone else, or heavy for me but light for someone else, and that's just their strength ability. So you got to work within your strengths. So training up for a competition, you lightening the weights when you've been lifting heavy weights off season, it's going to deflate the muscle. The muscle's got no reason now to stay big and to keep, you know, the strength up. So you keep your strengths up. You just train safely. You warm up if you're worried about injuries, and you keep the weights heavy, you know, because you want to come in looking hard and dense, and that's the only way you're gonna get that hardness.
Yeah. So talking about coming to shows then, Cecil, obviously when you last competed, I remember you looked fantastic. You were full, really conditioned, great shape, great legs. And I want to try and move on to a little bit about competitions now. Obviously, you mentioned the Olympia, the Masters Olympia that's coming up. So, when is the Masters Olympia? Is it the same time as the normal? I take it in September. Or is it still going to be December in Florida, or are they changing the times back?
I think it's in August, 7 months away from now. Yeah.
Oh, it's Romania. The Masters in Romania.
Romania.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it's in Romania, I want to see all you guys there.
Yeah, Lukas, you obviously just missed out on a pro card 2 months ago. You got second, didn't you?
3 times.
3 times.
3 times on a single show.
And you were actually in probably the best condition I've ever seen you in. You were absolutely peeled front to back. What's the plan? What's the plan this year?
I'll be back.
I'll be back. Very well said.
There's one thing about us, old school bodybuilder mentality, is that we love this as a lifestyle. Yeah. We don't do it just for the trophies. We do it to challenge ourselves. And that's the fucking difference between us and the newcomers, you know? Yeah. Like I said to you before, like these guys were talking, why would you change the way you train in the last 2 weeks? Why would you add a new piece of nutrient into that diet, what you haven't fucking been eating for the last fucking 12 weeks? Why do something stupid? Why make changes? Only time you make changes is when something is not working, when something is injured. That's the only time you make changes to a plan.
Coming into the last stages of your diet prep,
yeah,
which most people should know, is that depends on the type of diet you did. If you kept your carbs in right up until the last week, then you might deplete. So you carb deplete. And then as you carb load, you don't want to be burning those carbs. You want the carbs stored in the muscle. So you might back off your training, you know, so that you're not burning them. You know, you're loading up on your carbs and you back off your training. So you're full coming into the show.
How many days before would you back off, Cecil? How many days before would you start backing off of the training?
Well, you carb load. If the show was on Sunday, I think you deplete maybe from the Sunday before, and for maybe 3 days you deplete, or 4 days, and then you can either carb load. So on the day of the show, you're still carbing up, or you carb load up until the day before the show. So you're ready. You know, when you step on stage, you're ready carb. So it depends on what you're doing. It depends if you're a super heavyweight where you're not trying to make a weight class, you can carb right up until even the day of the show you're still eating. If you're trying to make a weight class, then you have to be careful you don't spill over and your weight goes above, you know, the weight you're trying to make.
What about training legs, Cecil? Training legs before, let's say, compete. The show's on a Sunday. When would your last leg session be? Because obviously, in the myth of the past, I was told to stop training legs about a week out to get better, so it wouldn't blur. That's what I was told.
I've stopped training legs. I make sure I train legs hard, but the fact that you're doing cardio every day, and you're walking or you're riding a bike, you still, you know, your legs don't really get that much of a rest. So I could stop training legs maybe 4 weeks out. Right. And just do maybe isolation exercises and no real hard.
Do you think that benefits the actual visual look on stage of the legs that they've not been trained too close to the actual show date?
Yeah, if you've got big legs and you put in the work prior to stopping, and then what you're doing is for some people's bodies, their legs will come in after their upper body. And if you're doing too much cardio, you're actually losing weight on your top, trying to bring your legs in. Yeah. So if you don't give your legs a chance to rest and to recover, because you could train your legs today and then you go off and do cardio. Then you train maybe back or shoulders the next day, you're still doing cardio. So your legs are continuously being worked.
Yeah.
So you have to decide what you can do. You want to get rid of the fat on your legs. So you reduce the leg training itself, the heavy stuff you do, with weights, so that when you're doing your cardio, anything you're losing off your legs, not pulling off stuff off your upper body, because you can flatten out. A lot of bodybuilders look good in their pictures going into a show, and then when they get on stage, their upper body looks a bit thin. They flatten out on top. Yeah. And that's maybe because they're still doing a lot of cardio leading up to the show. But it works different for different people.
Yeah, like for me. Yeah, go ahead, Lukas. Go ahead.
I kind of agree with Cecil, but this is the first time I hear a guy stops, kind of reduces his leg workout 4 weeks out. Usually, us guys, super heavy. 2 weeks out is ideal. And then obviously, right after my last leg workout, I go into have a deep tissue therapy and get rid of whatever I can get rid of, and then just continue with my cardio. And I try to stay away also from a Stairmaster. I just do power walk. Power walk.
What's the reason, Lukas? Is it to keep the fullness of your legs?
Reason being, in my case, is because genetically, I tend to lose legs quickly. When I did preps on a Stairmaster, let's say if it's a Jay Cutler, okay, do as much Stairmaster as you want. If it's me, I'll try to maintain every tissue I can. So everything I work through my off-season, through my contest prep, and then maintain the last 2 weeks, and then just try to get rid of all the fat and obviously the water from the tiredness through cardio and giving them rest, and obviously deep tissue therapy. Okay, get a massage, flush them out. But 2 weeks out for me.
What's the difference? So Jack, just jump in 1 second. So Stairmaster, you just mentioned that then, and there's a lot of people, especially I think it was Coleman many years ago, he said that he actually got to put on the Stairmaster, completely brought a different level of conditioning to his lower part of his body. Do you guys agree with that? Do you do Stairmaster? Obviously, Lukas said you don't. What's the benefits of doing Stairmaster for the people watching right up into the show?
You will not reduce fat, spot reduce fat. Yeah. No way.
You can't spot reduce fat.
No.
Like
Exactly.
I was that person watching Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler on a Stairmaster. And you know what? I bought a Stairmaster for my fucking garage at home so I could do cardio at home. And you know what? 12 weeks on the fucking Stairmaster, I ruined my legs. My legs were fucking flat, depleted, and it took me 4 weeks after the show to get them back to life again and full. I ruined my legs by hammering them. And you know what works for me? For me, what works is exercise bike, stationary bike, nice and steady, not hammering my legs, works for me.
Get the heart rate up.
That's where, when it comes to burning fat off my legs, it's in the gym, working my legs out. You know, twice a week then. Yeah. That's what I do. But with walking Stairmaster ruined my legs. And I have to stop training my legs like 2 weeks out. So because I need to start bringing the carbs slowly back into my muscles. Because for me, when I'm dieting, I'm depleting all the way through anyway. You know what I mean? So I'm depleting already. If you think about it, you're reducing carbs all the way through your diet plan. So for me, when I get ready and I know I'm flat now, super flat, I'll start bringing my carbs back up slowly so I'm not losing muscle tissue. I get to a point where I'm nice and full and I keep that level few days out from the show. I try to overspill the last week so then I can dry out before the show. Instead of like having so much carbs to eat right before the show and my stomach is bloated and I can't digest that much carbs because I'm not used to eating that much carbs. But this is where everybody's different.
Yeah, that's the thing. It works different for everyone else. But what you got to realize is that when you're dieting for competition, your cardio needs to be low intensity and high duration. So you're not pushing yourself to the point. You train the muscles to deplete them whilst you're using the weight training. So if you're on low carbs or if you're kind of reducing your carbs, you train to depletion. And then you use your fat as your energy to take you through your cardio. Now, if you're doing that at a nice steady pace, you can maybe still train your legs a little bit more. Or I cut my leg training out because I do a lot of leg training right up until the point where my legs are just too tired because I'm doing cardio every day.
That's your legs are massive. Yeah, your legs are massive. You got nothing to worry.
Yeah, but it's the detail. It's the detail because in my opinion, or what I see with bodybuilders nowadays, is they're not as dry and cross-striated as they used to be, where that was a judging, that was part of the criteria of being judged. You had to have the cross striations on your legs and cross striations on your chest. So now they're cut, but they're not ripped to shreds, because that's the term we used to use, call it ripped to shreds. So in those days, you're trying to get ripped to shreds, you know, so you're going to keep pushing those cardio for your legs, even though they might be big in size, but you want the detail. When you hit the legs, you want to have that sharp effect. You understand? So that's the kind of way I know to diet, you know, so you bring in the cross striations, your back is, you know, your Christmas tree, things like that. So you keep, it's all to do with the way you train whilst you're dieting. You're reducing your carbs, you increase your fats. If you drink loads of water, what happens is your body pushes out the excess, so you sweat and you piss a lot. If you reduce your carbs to 0, and then you increase your fats, your good fats, your body releases fats as energy. It's getting fat, so it releases it. So that's how you can get that dry look coming into the show. Then you have to be careful if you carb load from that point, because you're depleted. So any amount of carbs can cause you to kind of glaze over, and you have a little bit of water effect, you know, going on stage. Yeah. And if you add tan to that, sometimes I think a bodybuilder's over tan, and it's like they paint it on, and it hides some of the sharpness of their condition. So it's just different approach for different people, you know, coming into the show.
Guys, can I ask the question?
Go on, Lukas. Go on, Lukas.
The question is, this last year Olympia, because we're talking about sharpness and conditioning, and I saw a picture going around on the internet, people comparing Dorian Yates, the all-time greatest, with Hadi Choopan. Okay, listen. First of all, you can't do that. Yeah, it's a sin. You don't do that. And another thing is, Dorian is Dorian, forever in my heart. However, I do also notice that the conditioning of the bodybuilder is going a little bit down. The question is not whether it is happening, because it is. The question is why. Is it a part of the criteria that the judges want the guys being shredded enough but full? Or is it because something has changed with the chemicals and with the approach in general and the mentality? Now, I am interested in these guys' opinion because obviously they are in the sport a little bit longer. So let's go.
I think there's a lot of factors. It's not just one thing. Like, you know yourself, Lukas, the drugs back in the 80s and 90s was top notch, you know what I mean, compared to now. And the other factor is also insulin is overused, you know what I mean? And GH is overused. Drugs is overused. Everything is overused, from food, binging out on junk meals with how much chemicals the junk meals have, food in general has, everything has, you know what I mean? You know, it's organic isn't organic anymore. Food isn't food anymore. If you knew what they put in a chicken breast then to make that chicken breast that big, when you cook it, you see how much water comes out of it. There's so many different factors, and which is sad because, you know, bodybuilders, you know, you can't compare, like you said, from the past to now and say, why is it happening? The matter of the fact is, it's happening, and it's happening to a lot of, generally people, look, obesity, you know what I mean? People are getting fatter, iPhones are getting thinner. That's it.
I don't know, I remember years ago, there was a bodybuilder who used to come in really sharp, and it was how they used to dry themselves out with diuretics, and there was a lot of bodybuilders that died. And then there was a kind of issue about, you know, people killing themselves to get in condition. So they kind of opted more for the softer look, so bodybuilders wouldn't have to push themselves that far. And then they started to judge the softer physique, or, you know, not as sharp. And then I think back in the day, the chemicals, before the Berlin Wall came down, the chemicals we got came from, you know, the proper pharmaceutical companies. You know, the proper Bayer and Oregon and the proper companies. You could have doctors prescribe you prescriptions and you could get stuff that way. So now we have a lot of underground labs. You know, people, I don't advocate people taking steroids, even though steroids exist in bodybuilding, because nowadays you have these underground labs. You have guys putting whatever they're putting in to make the gear, and they're selling the stuff, and even if it's not what it should be, they're still selling them.
The problem.
Then you got all these chemicals that they're mixing 2 different steroids together in one 10 ml vial. Now, no legal pharmaceutical company would mix Deca with Sustanon or anything together in one vial. So these companies are boosting the potency of the chemicals. They don't know what they're taking. They don't know how much it's killing people's sex drive. It's doing all these things to people where it shouldn't be. Testosterone's supposed to boost your sex drive, not kill it. You understand? And people are getting these drugs and it's causing all these problems. So I don't advocate that. I say to people, you need to train. When I was younger and used to go to older bodybuilders and ask them, they'll say you train as hard as you can naturally and get as far as you can naturally. And then when you hit a wall and you can't get any bigger, then you can talk about protein supplements. People want to buy protein and say, you don't need protein, you need food and hard training. And that is how it was drummed into us when we were growing up. We used to be in gyms like Muscle Works, and that is what the older guys used to say to us. We was going, how do you get that big? How do you do this? What is this? What's that? And they said, no, you eat and you train hard.
What I said to kids, when they ask me about gear and stuff like that, and they said to me, oh, I've got £200 for us, I could go, you know what you do with that £200? I go, you want to buy the best, most anabolic product in, go to fucking Tesco's and do a fucking proper fucking shop. Buy your chicken breast, buy your fucking rice, buy your fucking food and eat like a fucking proper bodybuilder and watch yourself grow more from food than you'll ever do with fucking bunk underground fucking steroid shit.
So
if you take steroids and you don't eat, you don't get the most out of it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a quick one, guys. Just going back to Lucas's question. Sorry, I just wanted to put in on this one. Back in the early 90s, there was a drug that was, this is before synthol, and they can't get it anymore. So basically, I watched a podcast with Nick Trigilli, talking with Jay Cutler was talking about, no, actually it was Jay and Milos talking about this injectable pre-synthol product where they deplete right down to absolutely bone dry and inject this straight into the muscle and it inflate the muscle without any overspill or the side effects that synthol do, which would kind of like make it funny shape. Now, I was listening to Jay talking about this, and they were saying that drug was what gave them that you could get super bone dry look, and it would fill the muscle back up as a site injection. There was no pain; it only lasts for like 24 hours. I'll research the drug's name of it, but that I think was a lot of the difference between those bodybuilders back then using that compared to post using that. I know Flex Wheeler was a massive user of that particular thing as well.
Turkey was called Nolotil.
Nolotil.
They were called Nolotil.
That's it.
Yeah. So basically what it did was doctors used this drug in, when they did an operation, and so what they would do is they would cut a person up, so they could, to see the muscle better, they used to inject Nolotil into it, and it used to basically expand the muscle. So bodybuilders caught on, and people like Kevin used to use it, Flex used to use it, Jacob, Kevin
loads of it.
Telling me, don't quote me on it, use 20 injections of Nolotil in his back only.
Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah, because Lucas, they could deplete down to being flat and blow themselves up with this stuff that didn't make you spill over. It didn't make you look funky. It just blew the muscle up perfect, and it would stop being made, and no one's got a formula for it.
Yeah, and they said a lot of people stopped competing when that drug was that drug.
Yeah.
Wow. I never heard about it.
Yeah.
I never heard about it. First of all, I thought you were talking about acetylene, which
no.
injected before. But this is something that's a whole new game.
Yeah, it's called Nolotil.
20 years too late though, Lucas.
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me?
Well, we are. I'm the same age, me and you. We're 20 years too late for it. Otherwise, I'd buy a load now, jab it everywhere. I'd look like I'm decent again. I'm joking.
We'll have to talk about the drug side next time. We'll have to call it the heavyweight round table, this podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk about, I don't know, something else about our company.
No, we're all right with the company. The company's fine.
I think people are misinformed that the only way to have the kind of body that bodybuilders have, they need to take drugs.
Yeah.
They need to train hard. They need to be more patient with the process. You know, it's not a sprint. You know, it's a marathon. It takes time. You need to understand what you're doing and then apply the knowledge to yourself. You know, we need to kind of simplify the whole thing so people can understand what to do in simple terms. All these kind of educated people who are, nothing's wrong with getting education and having the knowledge, but sometimes people want that. They want someone to, you know, get in the gym and push them through a workout without telling them this attaches to there and you squeeze this and do that. Just put them through a workout, guide them so they're safe, they don't injure themselves, and teach them how to enjoy training hard. You know, if you're a coach and you see someone lifting 10 kilos and you can encourage them to lift 15, them doing that 15 is something that makes them feel like, yes, I've done something more than I could do. And that helps to build their self-esteem and confidence. So if we change the whole way that you approach to in coaching people and getting the best out of their workouts, and, you know, drugs is not the way to, steroids is always going to be in bodybuilding. You know, it's always been there. It was always there from back in the day. When people accuse people of cheating and taking steroids, it wasn't in bodybuilding, it was in athletics. When people got found for taking steroids in athletics, they say you're cheating because he's taking it and the other guys ain't taking it. In bodybuilding, you can't be cheating because it's a level playing field. Everybody on stage is more or less taking steroids. So no one's cheating and getting the edge on anyone else. There's a level playing field.
I always tell people, like beginners, I go, listen, when you're watching people like Jay Cutler train, Ronnie Coleman train, us guys train, listen, there's a reason why we train that way. We've got that mind and muscle connection. And the only way you're going to find out that and experience that is come to us and we'll put you through a workout. You can't mimic our arm movement. You know, we have to touch and feel your muscle and see how you're working it. You can't just copy somebody's workout. All you're doing there is mimicking the movement, but you're not mimicking everything else what's going on in the body, the mind and muscle connection, the breathing, everything. You know what I mean? What's important. And this is why a lot of, you know, people in this day and age, the social media day and age, don't know how to perform a proper rep. You know what I mean? Which is...
It comes down to the coaches, right? Because
what
we need to understand is that when we all first started training, we all did the basic stuff. We all eventually then found ways to kind of personalize our training. So when guys see a guy online and, wow, I want to look like him and I see the way he's training, they don't realize it might have taken him 10 years, 15 years to train like that. So now the coach needs to kind of say to these guys, look, this is what I do now, but this is what I did when I was your age and what you need to do at the stage you're at. Because you're a beginner or intermediate, you're not an advanced trainer to go in the gym and want to do 15 reps. I train people, I say 15 reps, but I cut them at 10. You know, I say, right, you've done 10 reps, that's enough, stop. You don't follow me and do 15 reps if you haven't got the experience. Like Lukas was saying, I can lift a weight that looks heavy to someone else and do 15 reps because I've been doing it all the time. You know what I mean? And I'm used to doing it. So I can just go in and do that. The beginner or the intermediate has to build up over time to get to that level of intensity. So we as coaches now have to put that across to people so they understand that there's different levels to training.
Yeah, this is why I try to embed into beginners' mind is you don't have to train 5 times a week. Dorian only train 4 times a week. You're a beginner, just train twice a week, and do half a body split and watch yourself grow. You don't have to spend 4 days in the gym like me. I'm advanced. You're not advanced. You don't need as much training as me to stimulate your growth. You know what I mean? You need to back it off and realize more isn't better. You know what I mean? Don't jump on a advanced bodybuilder's routine and cycle and thinking that's what you need to do. Bring it back to beginner. You're a beginner. So you know what I mean? Learn to crawl, then walk, then run. Don't learn to fucking run straight away, do we? You know?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We already know what we are doing. We already know what we are doing. For us, it's easy to say, do this or that. Looking back 15 years, I trained for 24 years. Goodness me, I had no idea. But it's funny, we have so much information nowadays, more than ever, but people know less than ever.
The problem is, it's like TVs, satellite. We've got so many channels, but there's so much fucking bogus shit out there. So much rubbish what people are watching. And the problem is people who are are good at what they do, they're basically getting diluted with so much crap on the social media. Do you know what I'm saying? It's because people say to me, "Oh, why is that coach giving that guy Rice Krispies to eat and this and that to eat?" I'm like, "Oh my god."
Who's that? He's Gaspari, isn't it?
Yeah. Kirk, listen, my phone's going to die any minute now.
Yeah, listen, guys, we'll wrap it. Listen, I've really, really enjoyed tonight. It's been the first session we actually talked about weights training since we've been doing this. And I think the viewers will absolutely love it. I've loved it as a bodybuilding fan, and listening to you guys who are all at exceptional level at different parts of your career, and even now still kicking ass. We'll definitely do this podcast again. We'll do a similar one and get the same guys on again, definitely.
Yeah, I think we should do one in a couple of weeks, Kirk. You know what I mean? Come back for it again. Make it a routine thing, because I think we've vibed good. I think this is a good crowd.
There's a lot of information as well, and it's the guys have been doing this a very long time. So it's come from a lot of trial and error. Both got to, well, all of you got to the top level in the sport. So yeah, definitely, I'd definitely do that again in a couple of weeks.
There's three different people, and we're all advanced bodybuilders, and we all got our different ways. But one thing we've all got in common is intensity, and the special C word. What's not cunt is consistency. You know what I'm saying, guys? So basically, don't be a cunt. Be consistent.
Be consistent. Listen, Lukas, it's been. Go on.
One more favor, because for me, I moved to UK, and these guys were some guys I was looking up to. Yeah, when I used to live in Slovakia, I had different bodybuilders as my idols. However, now I'm asking Cecil, what would be something motivational in one sentence you would say to a person when it comes to bodybuilding?
Enjoy your training, and be patient with the process. It's
okay,
not.
Zach?
I would say use whatever you need for motivation in the gym. If Arnold is your motivation in the gym to train hard, use him. If a big booty hole is your motivation to train hard, use that. Believe to achieve. Believe in yourself is the main thing. Everything starts off as a fall, and then that fall has a chemical inside your brain what makes you think, I can do this. And don't surround yourself with fucking negative people. You know what I mean? And
now Kirk. Also, Kirk, what would you say?
When you go to bed at night, you need to think to yourself, have I done everything I can do to be the best I can be today? And if you either have or you haven't, that's what I try and think every night now. I've got to do my best. So always do my best.
Also, be better on your timekeeping, you fucker.
This is Jay's fault. I'm going to bring him into it. Always have someone to blame is another one as well. Another good quote.
If you snooze, you lose.
Go on, Lukas. What's your one then, just to finish us off? What's yours to finish us off?
Mine?
Yeah.
I left my country with it. I came to UK. I left the UK with it. Follow your dreams and never give up.
Love it. Fucking love it. We'll finish that episode on that one, guys. But listen, everyone, I've really enjoyed today. Thank you so much for coming on. And we'll definitely get the team back on.
It was an honor.
Boy, stronger for longer.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Stronger for longer.
Guys, keep it real.
Awesome, boys.
Yes.
See you soon, guys. Take care. Bye now.